mind standing here?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mitsuo Uematsu, just retired from the University of Tokyo. And, well, thank you. But still, it's, I'm sure you really enjoyed your lunch with enough time. And now you're fighting, from this, your sleepiness. Yes. Okay. Today, I would like to talk about the future Earth, and especially related to the ocean science at this occasion. Oops. Okay, resilience versus resistance. Ocean contained 96% of the living space on Earth. Ocean has 80% of Earth's living organisms, covers 71% of the Earth. Everybody know about this. And almost half of the oxygen we breathe is produced by the ocean plants, which provide 4.2 billion people with at least 15% of their animal protein. 90% of the world trade is carried across the ocean. Hold an estimated 80% of the Earth's mineral resources. Now, everybody talking about SDG goals, and there are 17, and their motto is leave no one behind. Of course, in this room, people are interested in life below water. SDG 14. This is to give you some ideas. Among 17, where is the SDG 14 located? There is the 3 phases. One is the biosphere, society, economy. As you can see, clear water and sanitation, climate action, and the life below water, and life on land. This is a very basic goals. Definitely based on this, other societies or economic goals are just survive. But if you look at the indicated priorities, as you can see, clean waters and sanitation and life on land, people get very easy to recognize their changes, very direct. But SDG 14, below the water, you cannot see well. And mitigation, very indirect, and mitigation of negative impact. So this is the kind of the problem, or not problem, this is the important, just issues. However, this graph showing the most important SDG for society to focus on to achieve the most progress. Can you see that? Where is the SDG 14? SDG 14 is below the average. Life below water is the bottom. Can you believe that or not? Thing is, this is the number of percentage of expert, but they never evaluate quality of the expert included in this room. So upcoming decade of the ocean, unprecedented public and policy attention on the Earth, already SDG 14, and IPCC having the special report on the ocean and the cryosphere, and the UN Decade of Ocean Science. So ocean ecosystem needs concerted knowledge generations and provision. Ocean goods and services are important for people's well-being. food, oxygen, carbon storage, biodiversity, recreation, tourism, and transport, and so on. The ocean is under multi-stresses and threat. Warming, sea level rise, acidification, fertilization, plastics, toxics. So ocean needs knowledge-based solution, protection, restoration, recovery, adaptations, and governance, and etc. So knowledge action network is the kind of the important things for that. And this one is supported futures, SCORE, IOC, WCRPs. And I'm sure in this room, most of people knows about those activities and programs, but Future Earth, maybe unfamiliar with you. Future Earth, research for global sustainability. And this is not only research communities are working together, the policy communities, a science founder, important place, and business and wider society, develop a common vision and integrate available knowledge and implement action together. Learn from experience and feedback it again. So futures, just want to say, we have to move on from science for science to science for society. This is the important concept for the future Earth. Yeah, what is the history of the future Earth? And IGBPs, some of them know about this core project, and DIVA-STAS, and IHDPs, and ESSPs, and transition teams, and spend 1 year, and finally, Future Earth are established and fully operational since 2015. And the future structure is just like this. Governing council, and there is 5 global hubs: Colorado, Montreal, Paris, Stockholm, Tokyo. And there is another regional office and centers, just like this, and national entities and activities of a global research project, knowledge action networks, and national activity, etc. Okay, this is the kind of the, give you an idea about what is the governing council from. And Belmont Forum, UNEP, and United Nations universities, yeah, of course, UNESCO is the center, and International Science Council, which is merged in the last year, and just kind of the merge with the natural scientists and the social scientists. This is exactly the futures are heading. And there is the 9 knowledge action networks. But this year, the Future Earth decided to support 7 CANs, of course, included the Ocean CAN. And other 2 is still time to set up. So we are fortunate. Where Ocean CAN are still working on that. And what is the Ocean CAN? Well, that's very simple. The Ocean CAN is a network of networks. Its mission is to bring disciplines and draw experts together to seek action-focused solutions of challenges that require a multi-sectoral approach, international cooperation, and transdisciplinary research. So the Ocean CAN will diversify governance and management processes and support transformative action, facilitate transdisciplinary research, and maximize impact of existing research through the promoting and building capacity in the best practice knowledge transfer and mobilization methodologies. A network consists just like this, where at the present time, Ocean development teams in the center, and several people consist executive group, and the community included the GRP, the Global Research Project. And we established several working groups, included coastal risk, knowledge mobilization, learning networks, and mapping exercise, and ocean governance, etc. And of which we are getting just support and advice by the sponsors, WCRP, SCORE, Futures, the IOC. And this one is showing there is a global research project under Future Earth. There is 20 GRPs. And if you looking at so many things, there is some ocean-related GRPs. And Ocean can tightly related or just collaborate with those 4 GRPs. One is the integrated marine biosphere research, and the Future Earth Coast, and past global changes pages, and the surface ocean and the lower atmosphere studies. Yeah, let me talk about the regional activities. The Future Earth have the regional center for Future Earth for Asia in Kyoto. And there is the Future Earth national committees in China, Taipei, Korea, and India, Australia, Japan, Mongolia, and Philippines. And they covered all features, not only the ocean. But a regional office for Asia and the Pacific, International Science Council, supporting kind of a regional activities. Well, that is a SIMC, Sustainability Initiative in the marginal seas of South and East. That is a regional research project strongly supported by the regional office of Asia and the Pacific, and which office is located in Philippines right now. And they are also preparing the already submit a proposal for a Belmont Forum CRA, I believe. And development teams members is about 20 members, and from the 16 countries on the 6 continents. And here the members and the supporters which we met last year in September. Yeah, at the edge, just everybody just faces a little wider. This is my iPhone is no good qualities. And the roadmap and the strategic framework, development team would aim for November or December 2019 to launch the Ocean Can, and at this point, would have made a following achievement: active on the open network, actively engage with the decade, and engage with the SDGs and update, and working groups are supported. And the developed a strategy framework just like this, and achieved a balanced representative of other sectors, including NGOs, activists, and private, and the regions. And the landscape map, we have to make this. So, for sustainable future oceans of our unique aqua planet, from facilitating the exchange of oceanographic data and information for IODE. Thank you.
Thank you, Unasan. A very informative talk on the Ocean Can. Okay, let's move on to the next speaker. Next speaker is the Dr. Lev Nertin from Northwest Pacific Action Plan, NOPAP. And his title is UNEP and the Regional Seas Contribution to the Development and Follow-up of Ocean-Related SDG Indicators. Please.
Just a second. Is it okay, the light?
Okay, thank you very much. This one?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, and my name is Lev Neratin. I'm working for United Nations Environment Program, but I'm also a coordinator of one of the 18 regional seas programs here specifically in the Northwest Pacific. And this presentation is a joint one which will present some information about the global action by the UN Environment. And also highlight, or at least present, the current progress at the regional dimension through regional seas. I think there's many presentations during this conference dealt with SDGs and SDG reporting. I don't want to, I think we had first day presentation from IOC UNESCO, which presented kind of the flow where the data are coming and how the process will be organized. But I think it's very, this slide is just highlights that the ultimate authority on collecting data and presenting them to the global audience rests with the UN Statistical Commission. And UN Statistical Commission is working with the international agencies like IOC, FAO, IOC, UNESCO, FAO, UNEP, providing those data. But when it comes to actually supplying data to those international organizations, there are currently quite different views and understanding, and this is really work in progress. And specifically for UNEP, and I will be talking mostly about UNEP as the custodian of 26 SDG indicators, and 3 of them are SDG 14 indicators. And in this case, UNEP envisions the role of regional seas as an important mechanism for providing those data. As mentioned during the first day, I think many of those indicators are so-called Tier 3 indicators with the no globally available methodology available. But there are, specifically for UNEP, indicator 14.1, target 14.1, target 14.2 are Tier 3 indicators, and indicator 14.5 is Tier 1 indicator with established methodology. On the first 2, UNEP is working with IOC UNESCO as a supporting agency, and also UNEP is cooperating also with IOC UNESCO and other agencies on the development of other 3 targets which are shown here with the smaller icons. Our work so far resulted in 2 major basically advisory documents produced. One is still in the final draft, and it's so-called the Global Manual on Ocean Statistics. I mean, the purpose of this manual is provide countries with information on how to measure, how to collect and report those data. And I think the most important that production of this global manual involved missions to Fiji and Colombia, which were used as basically as 2 pilot countries to see how at the national level the information flows could be basically facilitated, how to connect the national statistical services with data reporting process. And the second publication, this is already published, it specifically deals with the role of regional seas, and also talks about all other indicators. And here I would like to mention that, as I said, it's work in progress, but the second United Nations Environment Assembly, specifically in its resolution, I requested member states and regional seas conventions and action plans with other relevant organizations to work towards implementation and reporting on ocean-related SDGs. So far, there are no basically hard decisions how the process will be organized and specifically how regional seas will be included in these reporting mechanisms. But at the end of my presentation, I will give an example how, let's say, we here in the Northwest Pacific approach this issue without the consensus on basically the global, without agreeing on the global reporting guidelines. Let me go a little bit deeper into specific indicators, I think probably more interesting for this audience, more technical audience. There was a very important workshop dealing with the development of indicator 14.1.1. So there are two parts in this indicator. One is dealing with coastal eutrophication, and the second one dealing with plastic pollution. And again, the workshop was hosted currently in Paris by IOC UNESCO in September last year. And in principle, the workshop took an important approach here, which I think will lay down the groundwork for the development of further indicators. So I think the importance of a driver's pressures state response framework was introduced, and it was agreed that, for example, when you deal with the issues of coastal eutrophication, you have to look at the causes, which are nutrient inputs. You have to discuss indicators related to impacts, chlorophyll A, and also discussing the role of regional seas and monitoring requirements. Let me mention that the workshop resulted in the consensus. There were a lot of discussions, and I encourage you again, if you are working in this area, to look online, because there are a lot of materials, what has been discussed, or technical materials. But in terms of consensus, there were four major points. One was that the reporting on SDG indicator 14.1.1 will be based on two levels of data. One will be global data, and specifically for sure it's chlorophyll A. And another one will be in situ data and national and regional scale data. Consensus number two, that indicator 14.1.1 should represent a dashboard of sub-indicators. The meeting agreed on the core indicator set and the sub-indicators. And finally, that UN Environment or UNEP will be working closely with various partners. I mentioned regional seas, but I would like to mention that GESAMP was listed here, the GOOS, and obviously the various national institutions. Very briefly here, I don't know if participants will have a chance to see, probably they will have a chance to see the actual presentation. But again, here it's important that the meeting agreed on the core indicators. One of them is the source indicator, index of coastal eutrophication, which will be directly related to SDG 12 on plastic waste, essentially the index of coastal eutrophication, which is a modeling indicator. The second co-indicator is chlorophyll A, and the third set of co-indicators is total nitrogen, inorganic nitrogen, phosphorus, and dissolved oxygen. And again, there is a lot of information there. Many of those indicators are so-called co-indicators of regional seas. When it comes to floating plastic debris density indicator, there's also discussion focused on various types of information and data available, specifically a plastic debris or beach litter, kind of in common language, the plastic debris in the water column, finally plastic debris on the seafloor, and the impact indicator, plastic ingestion by biota. And I think I'm sure for some of you from Europe, When it comes to OSPA and UNEP Mediterranean Action Plan, those two regional seas specifically use some indicator species on plastic ingestion. Here, again, there was agreement on the core parameters and sub-indicators. Specifically, the indicator on plastic waste as a source indicator was agreed, and this one on SDG 12. I think there is a common agreement that the best proxy so far globally would be a concentration of beach litter or plastic litter washed ashore. And finally, the floating plastics, largely using modeling studies. Now I'm coming to the next indicator, which is not yet properly developed, but our experience, so there is no common agreement. So far among regional seas, this is one of so-called co-indicators, which will be rather not quantitative but qualitative, and it speaks about the presence of, let's say, integrated coastal zone management protocols. And during the development of the manual on ocean statistics by UNEP and the case studies in Colombia, for example, this slide presents that Colombia has a national indicator, related indicator. And for example, Colombia will be using the coastal oceanic environmental units as a measure of progress towards implementation of integrated coastal zone management. But I'm not aware that we are planning soon the global meeting on this indicator, but definitely with the integrated coastal zone management frameworks, with marine spatial planning, particularly dramatic progress. I mean, IOC UNESCO is leading globally here on the development of marine spatial planning. There is a lot discussion which has to happen specifically on the indicator 14.2, proportion of exclusive economic zone managed using ecosystem-based approach. Finally, as I mentioned, tier 1 indicator is well constrained. Our center, World Conservation Monitoring Center in Cambridge, together with IUCN, developed a world database on protected areas. There's a specific indicator which is basically overlays the polygons represented by key biodiversity area over over protected areas from this world database. But for sure, I just want to say, although it's a tier 1 indicator, some of you who are working on marine biodiversity on area-based management tools would agree with me that the key biodiversity areas are largely biased towards birds. And although they are rather representative on the general biodiversity, there is also a lot of scope to improve biodiversity representativeness when it comes, although it's already tier 1 indicator. I have 2 minutes left. I just wanted to give you some insights how we approach specifically the monitoring and reporting issues. In the Northwest Pacific Action Plan, we last year, our member states adopted so-called the medium-term strategy, which essentially aligns all activities of NORPAP. And again, this is the intergovernmental mechanism between Japan, China, Korea, and Russian Federation for regional implementation of SDGs. And one of the important aspects of this is we are currently developing indicators for good environmental status. Again, in Europe, it's familiar, it's a framework directive. In our case, it's ecological quality objectives. Some of these ecological quality objectives, so I listed 5 of them, and specifically first 3, which are dealing with biological diversity, alien species, and eutrophication, not really 4, and contaminants, will be directly related to SDG 14.1, SDG 14.5 indicators, and we aim to align as much as possible those indicators of ecological quality objectives with SDG indicators and start collecting information that we also have a place in global reporting processes when the time comes and there would be a global consensus on that. Finally, just few concluding words. Again, I bring us back to the statistical issues that, again, it would be very important, whatever we discuss in the scientific communities among United Nations agencies, it would be very important at the national level to establish proper links to the statistical services which are collecting information, have mandates in this area. For definitely UN Environment, which considers regional seas and the regional reporting as an important reporting mechanism. There is a lot to do, and we expect that United Nations Assembly in March this year will hopefully make certain recommendations and decisions on the role of regional seas in SDG reporting and follow-up process. And finally, so there's a few people, if you would like to have more information, to my colleagues at headquarters, and when it comes to regional seas, you can contact me. So thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Meritin-san, for informing us of the UNEP regional activities of SDG indicators. Now, let's go to the next speaker. Next speaker is Dr. Jun-Soo Lee from Korean Oceanographic Data Center, Ocean Climate and Ecology Research Division, National Institute of Fisheries Science. And he will talk about Pisces. Please.
Good afternoon. I'm Jun-Soo Lee, chair of TCODE of Pisces. Now I'd like to talk about the North Pacific Marine Science Organization, the UN decade, and possible cooperation with IODE. The keywords of my presentation will be Pisces and UN decade and TCODE and cooperation with IODE. North Pacific Marine Science Organization, Pisces, is an intergovernmental scientific organization composed of 6 member countries: Canada, China, Japan, Korea, Russia, and the United States. The main objective is to promote and coordinate marine scientific research to advance scientific knowledge of North Pacific, especially north of 30 degrees north. This is the structure of Pisces. In the Pisces ecosystem, there is a top predator governing council, the big boss. But the science board is a core component of Pisces, actually. So the science board is consists of 5 standing scientific committees and 2 technical committees. And expert groups and scientific programs belongs to science board as well. And future, the core science program of Pisces, I'll talk about later in more detail. The cooperation mechanism of Pisces is mainly through various meetings, such as annual meetings, international symposium, workshops, training courses, and special sessions. And there was a PICES 2018 annual meeting last year in Yokohama, not far from here. And now I'll talk about the UN Decade and PICES. The future is an integrated science program, and this future science program is matches well with the UN Decade, I think. And the main goals are to understand how marine ecosystems in the North Pacific respond to climate change and human activities, and to forecast the ecosystem and communicate new insights to people. As can be seen from the conceptual diagram of future, the main concerns of future and PICES are climate system and marine ecosystem and human system and their linkages. So future seems aligned well to the UN Decade societal outcomes, and also future objectives is closely aligned to the societal outcomes. Taking a close look at the UN Decade R&D priority area, comprehensive map of the ocean is very low priority in the PICES. But a comprehensive ocean observing system is high priority in PICES. And our quantitative understanding of ocean ecosystem systems is high priority in PICES. But unfortunately, data and information system is low priority in PICES. Even ocean dimension in an integrated multi-hazard warning system is not a PICES priority. But ocean compartment of the Earth system is high priority in PICES. Capacity development, education and training, ocean literacy is low or medium priority in PICES. So there are a lot of sustainable development goals, sub-objectives and indicators. But according to PICES arithmetic, only a subset are relevant to PICES. And PICES would not be the primary source for indicator data. It is because PICES doesn't have their own data center and or not enough budget or staffs. Nevertheless, TCODE is striving to do our work within DOR. So we identify the data management requirements of PICES and develop plans. And we can also establish expert groups and guide them. And finally, we develop, review, and update PICES data policies and data inventory. This is a picture taken at the TCODE business meeting of PICES 2018. As you can see, our beloved IODE co-chair, Professor Yutaka Michita, was there. And he joined PICES TCODE as an ex-officio member representing IODE last year. So currently, we have 16 members in total. Since 1994, TCODE has done the following activities. And currently we are doing this kind of activities, not that broad, not that many, but I feel there are growing needs for data-related activities in PySys, such as management of metadata and data itself. This is an example of T-code activities, PySys metadata catalog. And this is the PySys data policy, which was finalized and approved by Governing Council last year. Now let's think about possible cooperation, cooperation with IODE. There are a small number of metadata, data, and data product in PySys. So I think joining IODE as an ADU or AIU will be an option for cooperation. But considering that the PySys, the main concerns of PySys are the scientific research, so I expect we can have more cooperation in the data-related area through the symposium, workshops, joint working groups, summer schools. Finally, I'd like to let you know that the PySys 2019 annual meeting will be held in October this year in Victoria, Canada, under the theme of connecting science and communities, changing North Pacific. And I ask for your interest and participation at the PySys annual meeting. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Lee, about the PySys T-code activities and its possible relation to IODE. So next, we move on to the talk by the Mr. Mitsuyuki Uno, Executive Director of the Nippon Foundation, and he'll talk about the Nippon Foundation, the importance of partners informing the future of oceans, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mitsuyuki Uno from the Nippon Foundation. So I'd like to express my gratitude for being offered the opportunity to speak to you all. So I'll be carrying out my presentation in Japanese. So please have your interpretation devices switched on. Thank you. プログラムを
It seems that I'm the last speaker, but I think you're quite tired with the 2 days intentional session, but I hope you would listen to my presentation. So, first of all, about Nippon Foundation. In 1962, we were established as a non-profit grant-making organization. And recently, not only with granting, but we were also conducting projects on our own as well. And our source of funding is is from motorboat racing. For overseas personnel, you may not really have a good idea about what we mean by motorboating, but it's the motorboat version of horse racing. So people will be betting money, and we were getting revenues from them. And there are actually 24 racing sites. Even in Tokyo, there are 3 sites. So next time when you come to Japan, I would love to come to our racing center. And if you could bet a lot of your money, so if you could contribute to our projects. And on a yearly basis, looking at the budget of our Ocean Affairs Division, as stated here, in Japanese yen, it's 11.5 billion yen, but this amount is increasing on a yearly basis. So talking about today's presentation, first of all, let me talk about the programs of capacity building within Nippon Foundation. Of course, cooperation with partners is my theme for today, so I would like to talk about the capacity building and also collaboration with JEBCO and Nippon Founding. It's regarding a seabed 2030. It's talking about our mission is to pass on the riches of the ocean to the next generation. And in order to achieve this goal, we are seeking what we can do for the future. So this mission, in order to realize this, the means of the methodologies that we are taking. So in order to come out with a solution with the complex issues available existing in the world, what has to be thought is a close collaboration beyond the boundary of fields of expertise and organization and countries. And in order to have an innovation that would be applied to the same thing. But in order to do that, we are short of capable human resources, which I'm sure all of you are aware of. And in order to develop this human resource, human capacity building programs are being conducted since 1988. So this would involve ocean governance, ocean observation, and international maritime law. So a broad area is covered. And partners, we have UN, international organization, universities, and research institutions. And the number of fellows at Nippon Foundation, we have 1,290 fellows from 143 countries. And looking at this list here, in conducting our projects, these are the number of fellows and our partners in the field of ocean. This is the list. But my theme is the importance of partners in forming the future of the ocean. And all of the fellows, in a way, after finishing their program, they are also becoming our partners in order to achieve our goal. And this, through these capacity building programs, what can be done? So I think many of you here have a lot of interest about JEBCO. So let me take an example about our collaboration with JEBCO. So JEBCO, how we became to partner with JEBCO for capacity building. And so JEBCO, they are building a map of the world's ocean flow. And this was first initiated by Prince Albert I of Monaco in 1903. And it's 100 years since then, but still in terms of the ocean floor map, there are still more to be done. And the reason why we haven't been able to make great advancement is, yes, there is the matter of technology, but more than that, we think the reason would be the lack of young personnel with required knowledge and skill set. And so, against such challenges, what we have done is Nippon Foundation have collaborated with University of New Hampshire and launched a training program and for hydrographer to generate hydrographers. And we would choose 6 young people as a fellow, and they would be actually doing training at a university, and also they will be in the ocean and trying out the hydrographers themselves. And up until now, we already have 83 fellows. And after this training program, what they could do is they could join this program that we have launched with GEMCO. And actually, Shell has launched this program called Shell Ocean Discovery XXV. And this is to make a autonomous, this is a global competition challenging teams to advance deep sea technologies for autonomous, fast, high-resolution ocean mapping. The prize would be $7 million. In Japan, it would be equivalent to about 760 million yen. And the background, Nippon Foundation and GEMCO actually had this program running called Seabed 2030, which is to make a map of the world ocean floor by 2030. We just started this project, and in order to achieve this, we realized that it is important to have a technological advancement, and we thought this technology can be supplemented by participating to such kind of schemes. And we think this was an opportunity also that our fellows can find a way to be active. So actually, we have this thing called the Alumni Foundation, which is a foundation for the alumni teams. So from there, we have founded some money, and then we have participated the X Prize, and the people who have participated here are 14 fellows from 11 nations. They have teamed up as a alumni team, and Kongsberg, Harshberg, related companies have also given support, and we have participated in this program scheme. And this round 1, round 2, and actually right now we've just finished round 2, and in Greece, Kalamata Strait, it was held in November 2018, and the mission is within 24 hours, 4,000 meter below sea level, map at least 50% of 500 square kilometers of the competition area. And the result actually is going to be announced in the end of March 2019, and we really don't know who will be the winner. But in a way, I'm kind of looking forward to it. And the thing is, 400 million yen is the price. I'm not going to get it as my personal money, but for the team, I would like them to gain this victory. And talking about this team, if you could please have a look at this image.
With modern technology, we can see the land in incredible detail. But there is one place still to discover. Most of our planet is covered in water, but only a fraction of the ocean floors have been explored. Sending humans into this harsh environment is both dangerous and expensive, and to map the entire ocean floor would take an enormous investment of time and resources. So how will we finally conquer Earth's last frontier? We are a team of passionate volunteers from different countries, backgrounds, and organizations, ocean scientists, advisors, and students. We are members of JETCO, an international group committed to compiling and sharing the best possible maps of the ocean floor. We are coming together to answer the call put forward by the Shell Ocean Discovery X Prize to innovate ways to map the ocean floor without human involvement. The competition calls for teams to develop robotic technology to travel from the coastline to the open ocean and map the seafloor under extremely deep water. We have combined existing and emerging technologies to develop an entirely new class of unmanned surface vessel which can transport a smaller underwater vehicle out to sea, deploy and retrieve it, and bring it back safely. All together with innovative, automated, operational and data processing workflows. SeaKit serves as a mothership, positioning vessel, telecommunications portal, and data collection platform, all without humans on board, transforming how we approach systematic ocean mapping missions. Our technology goes beyond Shell Ocean Discovery X Prize, also supporting the Nippon Foundation JETCO Seabed 2030 project.
An international initiative to fully map our oceans by the year 2030. It will assist in mapping vast areas of the ocean floor in a fraction of the time and cost it would take traditional manned vessels. We are excited to be a part of a mission so ambitious, transformative and challenging. Our passion and commitment is clear. We have one goal: to map the impossible.
It was a really nice image, wasn't it? We had an expert making this image. And let me talk about Seabed 2030, which is a different project. And Graham Allen and Robin has already touched upon this, so I won't go into details, but let me just add. So, and if JETCO, looking at Seabed 2030, you could understand, but Nippon Foundation is collaborating with JETCO. And of course, the thing is, we cannot complete this by ourselves. For this project, we need IODE from JETCO and UNESCO IOC, and many stakeholders cooperation support is needed. So this is really fit, or this is the key of my theme of the importance of partners. And by the year 2030, in order to complete the map of the world's ocean floor, there's three areas that we have to look into: collect the existing biometric data, and then collecting new data in unexplored area of the world ocean, and then technology development. So that's innovation would be necessary. And in all of these stages, governments, research institutions, private sector, and individuals' cooperation is inevitable. So anyone could become our partner. And 2018 February, the Seabed 2030 made an official launch, and since then, more than 24 organizations have been supporting, and already from the private sector alone, we have been able to accumulate 200 720,000 square kilometers worth of data. And Australia has also shared biometric data of 710,000 square kilometers, which is in total equivalent to Nigeria, a total of 930,000. Nigeria, you may not really understand how big it is, but it is a grand scale that we have been provided with such data. So lastly, Mr. Sasagawa, our chairman, in 2016, he was saying only 50% of the seafloor has been revealed, and by 2030 we would like to reveal 100%. That's what he said. So how can we utilize and find the massive data regarding oceans? And in order to collect these data, technology is important, but in order to succeed, the importance is to have partners, not only for organizations and companies. We would need the ability for everyone to be able to access to these data, and we would like to open and share this information as much as possible in order to get more acknowledgement and encourage people to look into this data, into this area of ocean. And so in order to reveal the seabed of the globe, it is a dream for all of us humanity. So in order to realize this dream of humanity, all of you here, if you could also participate a project and endeavor. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
For a nice presentation about the very generous contribution of to supporting marine sustainability. Okay. Then I'd like to pass the floor to the Baba-san.
Thank you for a nice presentation we had 7 speakers at this theme, cooperation with partners. Now we have a discussion and question time. Please, all presenters come to the stage. Unfortunately, Mr. Uno and Mr. Sakurai from S3 cannot join the question time due to their another business. My understanding, Mr. Sakurai provide very good their experience, and he pointed out the 4 key issues. Point. One is use of API to download the data, and second one is using a standard data format. And the third one is open copyright for secondary use. And final one is access to the data user want within 3 clicks. And those pointers are very good suggestion for data managers, I think. And Mr. Uno explained their experience on capacity building, and they introduced their success story from the JEB course. Now, we'd like to have a question for other 5 discussion. Yeah, 5. Yeah. Okay, please.
Thank you very much for the very informative talks today. I'm referring to the indicators for the SDGs. So we see that there is a new player to come, which are the statistical offices of the nations. And I think that we need to undertake an action that will interface these statistical offices with the oceanographic community in a better way than it has done up to now. Is UNEP going to help us to do this? And how we are gonna do this? This is very important, especially I would say the kind of data that could be stored by a statistical office is much different from what we are talking here. So what are the connections, possible connections?
I guess Dr. Nelson can introduce your experience on indicators.
Thank you very much I think it's an excellent question. I didn't have time to basically mention that a couple years ago, if I'm not mistaken, the UN Statistical Commission adopted a framework for environmental statistics. I don't remember the exact wording. And unfortunately, as you mentioned, there are very few data there which are directly related to specifically SDG 14. And most of them are, let's say, temperature, salinity, I think some nutrients, what they're collecting. So for this reason, as I mentioned that when this draft manual is now produced, so UNEP went to 2 countries to actually bring together scientific community, statistical officers, and discuss how it will be done. I don't want to say it's a chicken and egg approach, but I think it goes from all the sides. So from one side, the final agreements on indicators are being done by the SDG, this working group, which is represented by statistical people from statistical offices. But the methodologies are being developed by, let's say, organizations like UNEP. So for that reason, we are, through development of this indicators, we are liaising with them. But it's a long process and it's not straightforward process. But I think for my kind of understanding that for this community, for oceanographic community, it would be quite important through competent international agencies to build those links.
Is there any comment on his explaining? Okay, next question is here.
Japan is very active in international oceanographic programs, but I was wondering specifically in the Japanese 5-year plan and the plan for the UN Decade of the Ocean, is it specifically spelled out, or is there a strategic plan for international data exchange?
Yes. The one action item in the basic plan explicitly stipulate the data exchange. We do 日本語で言いますね。すいません。新しい海洋基本計画の中で、370のアクションアイテムが書いてあるんですけど、その中に一つそのデータエクスチェンジ、インターナルエクスチェンジについてのアクションを、取るということをしっかりと書いてあります。 すごく具体的に事細かには書いてませんけども、日本がIODE の枠の中で、枠というかその枠とともに協力して、国際データ交換に、貢献していくってことが記載されています。
Thank you.
Are you okay?
Thank you very much. And is there another question? Okay.
Yes, I have another question. The impressive achievement of JEBCO is, evident, and we thank the Nippon Foundation for such generous input to such an activity. I would like to point out that there is another impossible task that is in front of us that is also related to bathymetry, but it is the variable bathymetry, which means the interface between the land and the bathymetry. And that's another impossible task, but as important. We are talking about inundation, and we need to restructure completely the reference frameworks for doing that. We need to decide what is the reference of the sea level at the coast, what is covered and uncovered. And I think also a lot of research still needs to be done. So I'd like to point out to this other emerging impossible task, which is connecting a unique digital terrain model from the top of the mountains to the deep ocean in a correct way, which we still don't have. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for important comment. For her comment, is there any additional comment or something from JEBCO?
Thank you. This is Shintani, Chair of JEBCO, and thank you for your comment. The problem of vertical reference regarding the altitude or depth has a big problem. The altitude is measured from the mean sea level, which is geoid, whereas the depth is measured from the low tide level. That is because the depth is primarily measured for the safety of navigation, and you want to have the depth from the lowest water to keep always the safe depth clearance for the ship and under keel of the ship. So the basis of the height or elevation and depth is different. But JEBCO, working for 146 years by now, basically worked for the deep water depth, and the low tide or mean sea level didn't matter because we didn't come close to the coastal area. But now, doing seabed 2030, we have to look at that problem. We are aware of that, but that is beyond our control because most of the shallow water bathymetry is measured by the National Hydrographic Offices, and they still use the chart datum or low water level to measure the depth. We have to convert that. And hydrographic offices know the problem because the depth is not used for navigation only anymore. The depth, shallow water depth, coastal depth are used for many other uses. And IHO and each national hydrographic offices recognize that. So the idea is to change the concept of depth or altitude, not based on the water level, which may be increasing. So may use the center of Earth, or maybe the reference ellipsoidal height, instead of the reference to the mean sea level or something like that. And that is being considered, but it will be a long way to be practical. But yes, we know the problem, and we'll go probably move to that direction. Thank you for your report. Great comment. Thank you.
Thank you for your explanation. And time is passing fast. We understanding from this team, there are many similar activity among the international organization, and there is a similar demand from the many, how to say, industry and organization and the project. It's important to share the experience and information. As a doctor explain about the future Earth, Ocean Can is a similar activity to share the information. So that probably IOD can considering how cooperate with another parties. Thank you very much. We can continue the discussion during the coffee time. Thank you very much, everybody. And next session will be a panel discussion start at 16:15. Thank you very much.